Also talking this morning about the news that there are expected to be hundreds of protesters on motorbikes and scooters heading for Westminster a little later today to protest against the continuation of bike parking charges in Westminster. Not cycles, but motorbikes and scooters. And at 7:07, we can now go live to our reporter Anna O'Neill, who's in Golden Square, where the protesters will be gathering later today. Good morning, Anna.
Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Joy. Actually, the protesters are gathering right now as we speak.
Early.
Well early. About 5 or 6 people have turned up with some spanking great motorbikes here. But they're all protesting because Westminster City Council introduced these motorcycle parking charges just about a year ago. And they say it's because more and more bike users were using the city centre and they needed to generate more bike parking spaces, so they're using the money that they're making from this, which is £1 a day, to make these bike parking spaces. Well, in a moment we're going to be talking to Charlie Lort Phillips. He's the spokesman from the No to Bike Parking tax campaign, and he tells me that he bought his bike especially because motorcyclists could come and park in the city centre for free. But first, I've been talking to Londoners this morning about what they think about the bike parking charges.
No, you have to pay. It's two-way, isn't it?
I don't have the motorbike, I don't have car, so well, if the government in Westminster decides, maybe it's good.
No, they shouldn't, because I don't think it's fair for them to pay. I mean, we paid enough, council taxes and everything else on a bike. How much space does that take?
Well, cars do, don't they? At the end of the day, so why don't they? Why don't they have to pay the congestion fee when motorists do? What makes them so different?
Well, Charlie Lort Phillips, what makes you so different? Why shouldn't you have to pay?
Well, I think that last man hit it directly on the head. The reason why we're different from cars is because we don't congest. I mean, for example, I came in from south of the river this morning. It took me 15 minutes to get here. It was a very easy journey to do. It makes us very time efficient. It means that, we can get to work quickly, we can do more things, and we should be actively encouraged. And people are being put off by this, and people are not coming to Westminster anymore, they're going to other boroughs. And of course, if that spreads, it could mean that commuters generally won't get on their bikes, they'll go back onto public transport, which is already under pressure, and when they're at home, they'll use their cars, which is something we want to avoid.
I mean, it seems such a pittance, though, that you have to pay. It's only £1. Car users are thinking to themselves, well, what are they complaining about? I mean, we have to pay £4 an hour to park, and they only have to pay £1 for a whole day.
Yeah, well, I think, again, it's when you toss up the total amount. I mean, I think they were due to make £6 million this year off of this parking scheme, and that's going to well exceed any expenditure that they're going to use on improving parking spaces. Besides which, essentially, well, what are we paying for? We're paying for a box in the road, which, if they're not going to be charging us for it, has no other costs implicated with it. It's just a cost of painting a white line.
Is it fair to say then that motorbike users feel cheated? I
think so. I think a lot of people feel that, they, as you say, they have been encouraged to get their bikes in order to get them off public transport and get them out of their cars, and they now feel that, on this argument of pressure on car parking spaces in central London, that they're now being charged. But I'm sitting in Golden Square today, and opposite the bike bay that I usually park in, there's a brand new bay with 2 cars that haven't moved for the past 48 hours for Westminster's new car club scheme. So they obviously haven't got that much pressure if they can afford to take 400 new car spaces.
Except that, Charlie, it is still only £1 a day.
Yeah, but I think it's more the principle that people are arguing here. I think
so you can't really suggest then that people are going to go back onto public transport or use their cars over a matter of £1 a day principle. That's not going to happen, is it?
Well, no, I suppose that a lot of people who are already on motorbikes will stay on motorbikes, but I do think a lot of people are looking at this and saying, we've been encouraged onto this, and as primarily a commuter and secondarily a biker, people feel that they don't want to be taken to the cleaners for tax in this way, even if it's just a small amount per person. It's the principle that people are being taken advantage of by the local authority.
Charlie, you talk about 2 cars that haven't moved. I mean, the bane of my life is seeing those motorbikes covered in their jackets all year round. They are the ugliest sight. Sorry, I know it's not all cosmetic, but motorbike jackets just look horrible over a bike, and they're just left there in the snow, the autumn. They're as guilty of not moving as cars.
Yeah, I think so, but obviously there are going to be people who won't use their bikes. I mean, that's, or they won't use them as much as some people. And with regard to the covers, I don't put one on mine because I think my Vespa looks quite nice. But
no, I agree with you. I think they look much better naked.
Yeah, I mean, I always look better. Sorry, well, I don't. My bike does. But I mean, obviously, some people will cover their bikes because they're probably valuable machines. But I mean, the point I was making about that particular car that's parked over in the corner of the bay is that space that's been used for a car club. I mean, they're encouraging more people to use cars in Westminster. Could have been used to provide some more bike spaces and free up a little bit of the space, so that people might not feel the need to put covers on their bikes, because then there aren't that many bikes crammed into the spaces.
Well, let's go back to some numbers that Anna gave us earlier. I think I was right in remembering, Anna, that you said that the number of spaces actually gone up by something like 1,500 for bikes in Westminster. If that's the case, Anna, that must be a good thing, Charlie, surely.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have provided a few extra spaces, but I think
1,500 more, Anna was saying.
It's a drop in the ocean compared to the amount of people who have been encouraged to buy bikes over the past couple of years.
But that's an increase of something like a third over what they had before. That's not a drop in the ocean.
Well, if that's the case, you have to ask if they've already done it, why do they have to continue to charge? If they think they've got enough spaces, they don't need to charge. The only cost implied in this whole scheme is the cost of actually charging us themselves, because the amount of money they've got to pay to Verus to administer the scheme is all they need to charge for.
And that's why the demonstration's happening today. Thank you for joining us. He was a nice feisty chap there, Charlie Lort Phillips. Over to you now on this one, 0207 224 2000. Do you think it's right that bikers are being charged £1 a day to park their bikes in Westminster? Would you be concerned as a biker or a scooter user this can be rolled out into other boroughs? And maybe, if you're a car user, do you think it's about time they're being charged £1 a day?